How you doing? How you doing? And how you doing, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Patty. First off, appreciate you stopping by today. Second off, I'm sorry I wasn't able to get a video out yesterday. I got off of work, came home, and then immediately passed out for like a solid 4.5 hours. So I apologize for all that. I was a little dead after this week, but it's the weekend. I've got just a little bit of work to do today. I got to go get moisture levels from somewhere. And that's about it. Your boy also might be going on a date tonight, so wish me luck on that one. Well, this afternoon, not tonight. We're going to a brewery. I'm actually super excited. It's gonna be awesome. But yeah, so we're here to talk about essentially some Scythe tips. So there are some things that I kind of just want to touch on, and then especially kind of talk about talents and builds, because I feel like this class, more than several others, have a lot more diversity in how you can build them and get stuff out of it. So first things first, let's go ahead and talk about stats a little bit. So a really big distinction that I want to kind of stress to people is that when Scythe released on CN, they were much higher level than us. They were around like level 105. So the amount of stats that they're getting from gear at that point is much, much, much higher than what we have right now. So in a lot of ways, we're not going to be able to emulate what they're doing on CN because their stats are so much dramatically higher from all of their sources that it makes it a little bit skewed trying to pull information from that side. So that stuff being said, what are some of the stuff that you want to prioritize with Scythe? So most importantly, CDR for this class does not affect skill cooldowns at all. If we go in here and look at it, it basically tells us that it affects this recovery speed of heart points. And that's important because that means that CDR is able to keep you in your cat form longer. In your cat form, you have higher bonus magic damage, but it also drains your heart energy very, very quickly. So CDR becomes very important, and I believe the soft cap for it is 43,000 for you to essentially have an extra 20 seconds in cat form due to the regeneration effects. That's pretty important. So that's definitely one of the stats that you want to shoot for as a bare minimum. For those of you that are a little bit newer or just haven't gone that deep into stats before, and there's not a really great resource out there. I actually tried to see if anyone had put together a spreadsheet or anything like that of all the soft cap for stats for the different classes. But essentially the way it works is that there are soft caps. Once you reach a certain number, everything after that, you are going to have diminishing returns on how much you're getting from that stat. So essentially, like, you know, say that 70% crit is the soft cap, right? If you reach 70% crit at, 45,000 crit level, then it, putting more into crit isn't going to get you as far as some other stats. The amount of stats that you would have to put into it to get up to, say 75% crit, would then, could potentially be another like 10-15k stats, where if you invested that 10-15k into something like AP or MS, you're going to have a higher impact with that stat value, because if those aren't at their soft caps yet, you're going to get more from those stats, essentially. It kind of works on a sliding scale. After you get to a certain point, going up more is beneficial, but it's harder to get as much value out of it. So you have to put more and more and more and more in to be able to get that incrementally higher, but it's not going to be as dramatic if you put it into something else that's below one of the soft caps to get them up. So I'll do my best to do a little bit more hunting to see if I can get either get or make a spreadsheet that kind of breaks down the soft caps for all the classes so that you know which different benchmarks you're looking for. Because again, we're at a point in the game further back than the CN side. So we don't have the same overall power level, and we have to kind of balance our stats a little bit differently. So in terms of me, I really need to work on getting a bunch of gear transfers and stuff and investing more in CDR, because I did not have CDR on any of my gear because I was playing Assassin and Fighter. Two classes that don't really need CDR at all. They can be beneficial, but not as beneficial as things you can see I prioritize, you know, MS, AP, and then crit. So for all you Scythe players, I would say that you would want to prioritize CDR. And then the next one's a little bit tough. A lot of what I'm seeing, people are keeping crit and MS kind of in line. AP is the bigger one that's up in the air for me. I'm not sure how beneficial AP is to Scythe, because AP is typically only really good for physical attack champions. Like, AP is amazing for Blade Masters. AP is amazing for Gunslingers. AP is okay for Assassins. It's good, but it's not one of the like top two that you prioritize. So I'm not sure at this point how much AP is really affecting your damage as a Scythe player. And I'm probably going to try and redirect some of my AP into crit. But again, you want to be careful about over-investing in a stat like MS. I'm good at. I don't need to put any more into that. I can actually probably redirect some of that into crit and AP both, so that I'm getting them all more level, or just going straight back into CDR. Honestly, I really need to pump as much into CDR as I can, because the way that I'm having to do my builds right now are kind of trying to mitigate the fact that I have so little CDR. So let's go ahead and talk about the builds a little bit, because this is... I feel like there's a lot of variety here that you can do, and several different types of builds and how you're trying to focus, depending on what kind of stats you have, what you're able to focus on and try and get out. So, since I have such poor CDR right now, one of the builds that I've been playing with is focusing on increasing and supplementing my hit point energy as much as I can from my regular talents and my deep talents. So on the deep talent side, really all that means is I'm making sure I'm grabbing heart expansion, so I'm getting that additional heart point energy from there. But really, surging energy is kind of the most important one here. Overlord helps, and I think that it helps put you in a position where if you can get everything lined up correctly, you can potentially get some really insane numbers from trying to use a build like this, because how much we're getting for every 15 points of heart energy from surging energy. Anything that's increasing our heart point energy is going to give us more time in cat form because we have higher energy cap, but B, we're also getting all the damage increased from all of our skills by 1% for every 15 points. So that can be pretty beneficial. And a lot of what I'm trying to go for with this build specifically is, again, just trying to supplement the fact that I don't have the super high recovery that is necessary to organically get a good amount of time in cat form. So some of the other builds that I have going on, this is very much my PvP build at the moment. Well, there's two. I don't know if I have this one set for that. So yeah, this is, we'll go ahead and just stick with this. So this is kind of what I've been running for my PvP build. Destruction Blast is where I'm getting like a majority of my damage and nuking hits in PvP. So I like going with Destroy and Chain. You can potentially go for cat enhancement because it again boosts your magic damage by a good bit, and it also has a chance of increasing cat essences by 2 times. That means that your destruction chain fills up much faster in combat because anything you're doing has a chance to add 2 extra things to your bar to get the giant scythe skill. So that can be very good. But this is, I don't want to say super spammy, but the fact that Cat's Walk makes it so that your regular attacks aren't consuming energy and gives you super army. Super good in PvP. You're using your teleport a lot because of its ability to get you out of CC. I really like Drain just because that gives you the increased health. And Destruction Shadow, I feel like, is the real PvP winner, just because casting Destruction Blast, reducing your Grim Scythe cooldown, makes it very accessible. It is up a good amount of the time. And it also reduces the heart point consumption of Grim Scythe, which is nice. It's nice. It's not really a make or break, but it doesn't mean that as soon as you pop it, you have to switch back to Raven form to start getting your energy back because it blew all of your energy. So it giving you a little bit of wiggle room there and possibly having enough time to still have like enough energy for a teleport, it can be really strong. If you wanted to run something that, you know, was a little bit more aggressive, you can do things like Cat's Tango, which, go ahead and drop down so we can read this. When you switch into Spectral Cat, all skills won't consume heart point energy for 5 seconds. So that's all of them. You can pop out your Shadow Clone. You can start teleporting around, doing whatever you want. Boo, ain't going to cost a thing. All damage is increased for 15 seconds, and it also removes the Destruction Blast cooldown, allowing you to just spam that skill, which can be really high burst damage. It's not going to... The main difference between running this and say running this is more consistently going to allow you to use your, you know, big scythe skill where the 4-drop from the sky and it stuns everybody and does a buku amount of damage. This will be available a whole bunch, but this will allow you to have higher burst instead of more consistent damage. So this can be super beneficial, and again, getting more super armor in PvP is always something that you want to be considering, just because the fact that it just helps you live a lot longer, avoid some CCs. It's super valuable. So having it from potentially 2 sources, where you're getting it from your S talent every time you go into cat form, and then every time that you teleport getting super armor, that'll help you a lot and give you a lot of ability to, you know, continually run away and just try and save your life. If we take a look at, oh wait, let me change this back so I don't forget it. And this is essentially the second way to build the PvP build. I didn't realize that I had this already set up to explain some of that stuff, but again, we're getting the heart expansion because I like that energy, boy. If you have a whole bunch of CDR, you can potentially go into, you know, talents like this or getting the extra speed out. This essentially just makes your Shadow Clone do a little bit more damage. It doesn't say, you know, if it made you do more damage after popping your Shadow Clone, then this would be a clearer winner. But because of I don't have a bunch of CDR, we're definitely going with Heart Expansion. But there's some other stuff that's not horrible to grab if you already have the CDR that you're pretty happy with. In terms of other PvP builds, really the only different build that I've gone with besides what this first one is set to is going with Destroy and Chain at the beginning. Pretty sure we switch over to that one. I don't think we change anything about this because A-level talents are... Neither of these are super amazing. They're both kind of defensive cooldowns. And then I have a hard time. Ju- I really enjoy this because of how much I need the extra heart points because of my lack of CDR. This is again really, really amazing for burst. But I think if you get to a certain point of being able to control your heart energy, a build with this is going to be a lot more important. There we go. And this also would be a talent that you might want to consider if you're in dire straits for CDR. But I think taking the increased magic damage from 30% to 45% is going to be stronger across the board. I've done a little bit of testing and training trying to see how big the damage difference in some of these are, and I'm not finding anything too crazy. Difference of like 20 to 30k with some hits, but nothing like the fighter bug we saw where, okay, if you have this one S talent, you're now doing insane amount of damage compared to where you are the rest of the time. All of my testing with all these different talents, I haven't ran into anything with that yet. That's also not to say that there's nothing in Scythe that is broken. But it's just something that I kind of wanted to talk about and hammer home a little bit. In terms of your core, and I think right now a lot of people, I don't want to recommend that people invest heavily in changing their cores up a whole lot, especially since we're only a few days into the patch of Scythe being here. There's not a lot of other classes that super strongly benefit from heavy CDR builds besides Soul Dancer. So if you really, really loved Fighter and you're enjoying Scythe so far, I don't necessarily suggest that you come in here and just demolish your core so that you can get a whole bunch of water gems. Because, you know, you might not be playing this class again a week from now. You might get tired of it and want to switch back to something else. So I highly caution people from changing too much in their cores when they switch classes because of how expensive it can be. So be a little careful on that front. I definitely am going to try and get a few more water gems in here, but I'm not going to go crazy for it. Mostly because all my gems are level 10, and at this point, we're talking several thousand diamonds to replace just one slot. So that's a really high bar to want to invest in. So personally, I'm more looking towards continuing leveling up, getting to the next tiers of gear, and letting the big stats from that helping me meet some of these thresholds, and not super dramatically changing anything about my character because of how expensive it can be. I also plan on still switching back between Scythe and Fighter from time to time, because I do enjoy the Fighter class a whole lot still. Both of them are very interesting and active playstyles, but I like punching stuff sometimes, so your boy's not completely abandoning Fighter, and I think there's a lot of things with fighters that they still haven't fixed bugs-wise, specifically the thing we mentioned earlier where their talent makes them do a lot more damage when they're in robot form. That's still a thing and hasn't been patched to my knowledge. So that's super good for things like Dragon Slayer and everything. So there's still advantages to other classes in other places. So I'd ask that you guys keep that in mind and not go too crazy overboard in trying to, change a whole bunch of stuff up. When you're getting new pieces of gear, re-roll some of your stats, to something more beneficial, because that's something easy and cheap for you to change. And I think that's where you should get the most impact for the least amount of resources in terms of trying to fix stats and reprioritize things on your character. So I definitely recommend trying, you doing a whole bunch more dungeon runs, boo-boo, and trying to get as much gear as you can and doing gear transfers to make up your differences. than spending your resources to drastically change your core or anything like that. Yeah, I think that kind of touches on everything that I wanted to talk about with the Scythe class today. I'm obviously going to be running around and super busy for the rest of the day, so I don't know if we'll be getting a second video out today. But I will do what I can to try and do that. But tomorrow we should definitely at least be able to do a guide on the new Tide of War, Tide of Gods PvP battle, just because I was too busy this week when it was open, and I'll have to catch it this Sunday when it opens up so that we can try and do a video on that. All right, guys, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for checking in today. You're gonna have to catch your boy on the next one, because I think we out of here. Deuces.